Welcome back to episode 2 of After Sessions. Because we are in February, today's topic will be love on the brain.
Wait a minute, wait. Are we talking about Rihanna?
Insane in the membrane, as they would say in my generation.
No, we are not talking about Rihanna or the membrane like that. Today we'll be talking about love and all things related to love from a psychotherapist's point of view.
So why don't we go ahead and kick this off by defining love? How would you guys define love?
It's a good question.
Love hurts. Personally, I guess I was thinking love would be, thinking sacrifice, but more than anything, I think love is suffering. It's vulnerability. I think that's the word I was looking for. Vulnerability.
Yeah, I like that.
The highest level.
When you all hear the word love, what's the first thing that pops into your mind?
My partner. Mm-hmm. But I also think about how, like Gilbert said, like being vulnerable. I think that takes the deepest form of love.
I think about a mother. And going to sacrifice, going to the theme of sacrifice. Mothers love their infants.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't think mothers love to wake up at 11:59 p.m., 1:30 in the morning, 3:08 in the morning to wake up to dirty diapers, but moms do it. So going to the theme of sacrifice, when I hear the word love, I think of mothers, of a mother taking care of their babe, all throughout the night.
Yes, but also fathers, which we're kind of like the unsung heroes there, because I mean, again, from a generational perspective, having grown children or adults, some one of them's married already, and you want them to do well, you want the best for them, and you're willing to do anything so that they can have that. So there's that sacrifice of you. With you experiencing discomfort and taking that so that they don't have to the nth degree, and so fathers, mothers, but I think is that sacrifice. But then at the same time, I mean, if you look at it if I look at it from a more, I guess, deeper side, psychological and philosophical perspective, I can't talk today, is vulnerability, being very vulnerable.
Yeah, and I was thinking that too. I think with as far as like parenting is concerned, right?
Yes.
Like I feel both a mom and a dad, like, sacrifice in their own ways. I think love can be very different based on gender or just on the role that they play, because love is not always the same,
or within or different type of attachment processes. Right now, it seems like we're talking about the attachment the love between a parent and a child. But obviously, we're also going to talk about the love between two people, romantic love.
Yeah. So I think the vulnerable and the sacrificial aspects of it are very true. Both can't coexist without each other. We sacrifice so many things. Where in a relationship, it could be our friendships, it could be, with our kids, anything,
Parent-child.
Yeah.
So within the, I guess, romantic type of love, how would you all define love? Or is there a definition that's all-encompassing that could be applied to all different attachments, whether it's between lovers, parent-child, friendships?
I mean, again, I don't know if I'm going too cerebral on this, and maybe even theological, but when I think of like from romantic love, the eros, love,
the Greek love eros.
Yes, there's a depth to that I would say it's foundational, absolutely foundational. And one of the biggest mistakes that I've seen with people, patients, things like that, is that they uphold, and they start focusing more on the love of their children and forget about the love between the husband and wife.
Yeah.
That's relegated to a second place.
And that's why I love the Greeks, because they subdivided love into 7 different types.
Yeah. I know of 4, but but the thing is, it's so powerful because I see that mistake so much, and that's where I see after the kids are gone, because they'll find their own romantic partners, and all of a sudden, like, now you're alone with this person that you used to know.
Yeah.
Right? Like that song. And you're like, wait a minute, who the heck are you? You look familiar. I think I knew you from somewhere. And all of a sudden now they're what happened to us?
Yeah.
You know? And wife becomes part-time mom, part-time wife and full-time mom, and husband becomes a part-time husband, full-time worker, and to bring home, I mean, in a more traditional setting, of course, both of them are working. But what happens is there's that cooling down and parting of ways, if you will, of the husband and the wife for the sake of the family. But they're at the same time, they're cutting off their own legs because they're destroying the very foundation of it all.
Which leads to the 48 to 50% divorce statistics here in the USA.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think even over the years, like, love changes, right?
Yes,
like how you had said, from like the beginning where, you know, we love our kids and we're there with them like 100% of the time because they need us. But as the years go by, you know, we love them differently, where we have to give them their dependent, like they're independent.
Yes.
We let them learn their own lessons, and it kind of changes over the years to where consistently with our partners, it stays the same, but because of communication.
And that's the hard part, you know, when your kids grow up and they're adults, that's the scariest part because they're making their own decisions, and you're praying to God that they make the right decisions.
Yeah.
And you don't want them to go through the same stupid crap you went through growing up, or I went through growing up. You know?
Okay, if I could piggyback off of that note, we don't want them to go through the same crap that we went through.
Yeah.
I think that's in my work. So my specialty is love. It's couples and family psychotherapy. 50% of my caseload is couples.
Yeah. Same.
And one thing that I've noticed, maybe you could relate to this, Gil. Couples are very ignorant on love.
Absolutely.
how they define love, the different types of love.
Well, I think even for us, like when we're thinking about love, like we're also having like a hard time. Like, what is like love, right? Because
that's what we
could think about it in so many different ways. And even when we see couples, you know, we don't see the love, right? But we hear it's like, oh, but I love them so much. And it's like, okay, well, we're not seeing it in front of us. Like from a third party perspective, like us having to be there,
right.
Like
people who do not have a paradigm, who can't define love, are like sailboats without a sail in the sea.
I think it comes down to semantics, because you can look at love as a noun, but love is a verb.
Ricardo Arjona.
Really? Well, I wasn't thinking about that. No escucho a Ricardo Arjona. No, it's a verb. It's action. It's action. It's a choice, which I think we're going to get to that eventually. But it has to be something that you're deciding to do, because sometimes you just don't feel like loving. You feel like strangling the other person.
It has to be a choice, and because it's a choice, it implies that we have to use our freedom to love the person. But again,
I was struggling. Sorry, I was struggling with when you said like the definition, because I'm like right away went to like Robert Sternberg, you know, like the definition of love triangle and the different components of that, which is, you know, what is it, commitment, passion, and intimacy, you know, and all of those things. But I'm like, that's a little bit cerebral, but you know, really, you can't get around it if you really get down to the definition of it. Yeah,
because I think even as we were like young, our definition of love like changes over the years.
When I have couples in front of me in my private practice, that's the first thing we do. we define love. Why? Because that's going to be our template to how we behave with each other. So I define my love in my work with couples in a twofold manner. The first one, love, desiring the greatest good for the other. The second half is love is not an emotion. It's an act of the will.
Yeah.
So desiring the greatest good for the other, not an emotion, an act of the will. And again, I think if we embrace that definition, we could apply it to our friendships. We could apply it to the parent-child dyad. We could apply it to lovers, because a mom, she doesn't, or a father, to Gilbert's point, doesn't want to wake up all throughout the night, but she does it. She doesn't feel like it, but it's an act of the will, because why? That's the greatest good for my beloved.
Well, interestingly, there, one of the things that you can look at, as far as like what there's several things in my head that I'm just trying to like, okay, shut up right now, wait. But one of the things that you said right now about mom waking up and dad not waking up, like, it's just a reticular formation in our brain, how it's wired. For women, the baby can just make a little noise and she'll be up.
Not for men.
Not for men. But if there's some noise outside, the woman won't wake up and the man will wake up right away.
That's true.
So it's just the way we're wired. It's just
biologic.
different.
You're talking about the study from in the UK.
Yeah.
It's they took a bunch of couples.
Yeah.
and the mom would wake up to the sound of the babe crying.
Exactly.
Whereas the men, of the researchers, that would open the gate in their home and the men would awaken.
Yes.
And
different purposes, man. Different
which challenges the women's belief that men really don't care about the baby. But we, neurobiologically speaking, that's true. I mean, we're both assigned different roles.
Absolutely. What I was going to say, it's also again, when it comes to expression of love, like you said, I think we were mentioning about what you've learned from your couples and the definition of love. One of the things that I'm curious, because I've noticed this with my couples, have you noticed a gender split on how love is expressed?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, definitely.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, because there's some client that when we're talking to our couples, I've noticed that the moms are usually an act of service. Like, well, it's because I do this and I do that. I'm doing this and doing that. And then the male automatically falls into like the provider role. Yeah. Right. It's like, well, I don't do any of that, but like, I go to work, I pay the bills, I do that. Yeah. And it seems like there's always like that disconnect between the both of them when they're describing how they show their love to each other.
Yeah. I mean, what both of you are mentioning is the 5 love languages. Yeah. That theoretical model.
Well, I think that's in addition too. I mean, I do think what's his name, Chapin, is the guy
Gary Chapin.
That. It's a great, phenomenal work. That was actually going to be my follow-up question, about that. But definitely the gender split, because I hear that he doesn't care. He's always at work. I'm like, yeah, he's at work for a reason. Yeah. So it's like. But she's interpreting it as he doesn't care because we're just here. I'm like a single mom and and he's over there working his tail off, working in the oil field or whatever. Yeah. And because that's what he does to provide for them to have a standard of living.
And maybe because I've just been in the field for so long. Yeah. I hear that all the time. Yeah. I hear that all the time, and I can't help but think, I mean, if this couple would only know that their partner does love them, just in their own way, that would be a good first step.
But I feel like we also focus, again, bringing it back to like society and standards. It's like, well, what do we hear all the time? Well, they don't make an effort, right? They don't give me flowers, or they don't buy me this, or they don't do like the sentiment of just buying me a bag of chips at the store and then bringing it and saying, hey, look, I thought of you. So there's this quote that's been like floating around like social media about how love is to be seen, not and to be heard. So basically, like by saying, oh, well, I had mentioned one time that I really needed to go to the store to pick up some makeup wipes. And when I got home, they were there. You know, I didn't have to ask for it because they're hearing me. They're listening to these things.
So what that social media meme or reel was probably talking about was the 4 S's of attachment. The 4 S's of attachment are: I need to feel seen, I need to feel safe, I need to feel secure, and I need to be soothed. And that's one of the S's. So which I'm glad that's coming up, because again, there's so many theoretical models, the 4 S's of attachment, the 5 love languages. And if couples would just take a step back and maybe learn about these things, their marriages would just improve.
Yeah. And I think an additional aspect of it would be like how we're primed to show love based on the observations we had from our parents.
Yeah.
Like how is it modeled for us as we were growing up? You know, like for example, in my house growing up, my dad was the sole breadwinner, and he would work from, sun up to sundown, and he would work in construction, and he would always bring home, the bacon.
So if we look at that from the 5 love language model, for example, a gift giving, acts of service, quality time, physical contact, and words of affirmation. Your father, by definition, was an acts of service guy.
Yeah. Acts of service and also physical contact. My dad was also very physical contact. He like, when I would get home, he would put me to sleep on his lap, and he would be like, that was like that. And he was, words of affirmation were there. Although later when he got old and cantankerous, there were fewer and far between.
Yeah.
but yeah, definitely.
But I think also like growing up, everybody didn't have that, right? Like growing up, like maybe we hear some clients where they grew up in abusive households, and their definition of love changed. Like, okay, it can be, yes, they hit me or they talk back to me, but they still love me.
Yeah.
So the idea of like sometimes love.
But the question is, how do they love you? So even in volatile homes, love is expressed in some way or another. In my home, my mom, hers was acts of service. Even to this day, my mom, love my mom. My personal love language is and the 5 love languages, one of the things that most people don't know is that they're dynamic, meaning they change over time. So my love language currently, it's physical contact. I want my mom to do what your father did to you. I want my mom to give me piojitos and all that.
My mom will do that too,
But my mom, her love language is acts of service. She'll randomly show up, clean my home. I don't ask her to. She'll make me breakfast and take it to me. I don't ask her to. But that's what was modeled for me.
The funny thing is that you're saying that was my mom. She was very acts of service. Because she said my dad, I'm like, oh, my dad, yes. But my mom was acts of service. And I'm like, now I'm thinking back, Ella, my wife, she's acts of service through and through. So I'm like,
Yeah, even as you're talking
about it. Did you marry your mom?
I probably did. Freud.
Are we in Freud right now?
Dr. Freud.
Sorry, my psychoanalytic mind
absolutely. Absolutely.
But I think love is like the foundation of a lot of things. And then communication follows after that. And it's just what we saw growing up. I think in our culture, we see so many different things.
It's
and
the foundation.
It's so hard to break out of those patterns that we see growing up.
Absolutely.
Because they're unconscious and we're not mindful.
Well, sorry, continue.
And that's why I think all couples, especially the ones that are getting ready to get married, they should come to us.
Exactly.
They should come to us to make the unconscious conscious.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because I don't... It's funny you mentioned that, because when I see couples, there's always one person, right, that is resistant to coming in.
Yes.
And they don't want to be there. They're just doing it because, their partner is telling them to come in. And usually it's too late. or they're at the end of their marriage where this is like a last resort for them.
The hardest couples to deal with, for me at least, and I think you would all agree, you both would agree, is those couples where the divorce papers are already on the table.
Yeah.
And
Or where the word's been thrown out already.
Or the menos mal, still mal.
Sí.
And I mean, they expect us to work miracles.
No, yeah, they do. And they come, well, they should have come a year ago. And then they come just to check it off the list, like, well, we tried it. And it didn't work.
And it didn't work.
Too late. A dollar, a dollar short a day late.
But they're already checked out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I like how you said about like coming in the beginning, because I think about like our own, like reflecting like on previous relationships or even like my own marriage, like having those topics of like of love, or even like what's your love language, what are some things that maybe I do that you don't like, and sometimes we don't want to hear the hard truths.
Right.
Yeah. Well, when people come to me and say, Pastor, could you marry us? I'm like, sorry, I'm married already. But no, I tell them, okay, if you want me to officiate your wedding, I'll gladly do that. But you need to come for a minimum of 3 1-hour sessions as a couple.
In the Catholic Church,
so we can actually go over it. Yeah. Well, there you go. So that's what I'm saying. But at a minimum, so we could talk things about, their childhood. We can talk things about finances, their expectations of like parentings and communication. So
everything.
Those are the things that I like to address, So
because those are things that we need to talk about right before,
Exactly.
because love it's a choice.
Yeah.
We're making that choice every day to like be with one another, like every day. It's not, I'm just here because of the kids.
Exactly.
It's like, okay, that's not what we want.
Yeah.
So my doctoral thesis was on love. It was specifically on divorce prevention. And in my research, I identified that there was 2 main reasons why couples divorce. A, the final straws.
Yeah.
And B, the underlying reasons for divorce. The final straws that's it. The straw that broke the camel's back. And there was 3. Either someone cheated, domestic violence, or substance abuse.
Yeah.
Someone got an addiction.
Yeah, exactly.
And what I tell couples and in these premarital seminars that I offer is couples don't march down the aisle and go to the altar wanting to cheat on my spouse in 10 years.
Exactly.
In 5 years, I'm going to grow into an addiction. In 15 years, I'm going to beat the heck out of my spouse. Couples don't do that on their wedding day.
Exactly.
So why does it happen? So then there's the underlying reasons for divorce. And lack of commitment, too much arguing, marrying too young, little or no premarital education, how my spouse handles money. There's all these reasons that I found in my research for my doctoral studies, and these things could be prevented.
Yeah.
I mean, but these little things, they chip away at the love throughout the years.
Absolutely.
And yet you're talking about it. I'm like approaching like my 1-year wedding anniversary, right? And just thinking of that, how it is a process, to want to have to get married and do all these things. And we don't like get married with that intention of like hurting our partners like years down the road. So,
okay. On that note, there's a saying that goes something like, love means loyalty no matter what. What do you all think of that?
I feel like in the context, it could mean so many things, because
love means I gotta stay married even if my spouse beats the heck out of me.
Yeah.
I disagree
If
with
there's
that.
infidelity.
Yeah. Well, I got married through the Catholic Church, and we know what their stance on divorce is.
Yeah.
If we have to have like that reason, to get divorced. And I feel like people are always thinking like we need to have like this big reason to leave each other, like the affair or the substance abuse. But what if there's nothing there? Like what if none of those elements are on the table right now, and we just fell out of love, and now love means something else?
Well, let me challenge that. Why do people fall out of love?
Resentment.
Well, okay, going to the Gottman method, I mean, the 4 horsemen.
Yeah.
Right, but how did these people get to that stage? So I think from a preventative stance, I'm of the camp that marriage doesn't have to be hard. If we prepare couples in advance.
I think that what happens is that they stop sacrificing. They give up on sacrificing. And now I start on survival mode, and I'm no longer sacrificing. I'm just trying to survive.
Yeah, life gets in the way.
Yeah.
The kids extracurriculars get in the way, our own jobs, maybe our own goals, and we stop working together, and it becomes everybody in their own like individual identities, just coinciding like with each other.
Yeah.
The routine. It gets in the way.
And people thrive on routine. You hear it all the time, right? It's like, it's because I thrive on routine. I want routine. I need it. I'm missing it. But yet, there's like a fallout in between this routine that has to happen.
All right. Well, another maybe myth, if we could call it that, is love is the fix all.
Yeah.
Love fixes everything.
Amore vincit omnia.
So then, I don't know. I mean, I agree with that. If the love is authentic, if we know what love is, sacrifice, if we truly define love, because if we have a concrete definition of love, then that will guide us. But if love is an emotion like most people think it is, I mean, I'm in my mariachi outfit right now because I was serenading these couples. And it's February, so everybody's serenading everybody. And I think a lot of people stay stuck in the first phase of love, which is the
infatuation.
Well, that would be the second one. It's more like the honeymoon phase, the lust phase. I mean, there's different theoretical models of the phases of love. Some people say that infatuation, limerence, is the first phase. Sanjay Gupta, he says there's 3 phases of love. In my doctoral study, I kind of prescribed to his. The first one is lust, the lust phase, which is where we kind of fall for the person of what they look like on the outside. The second phase would be the infatuation phase, which is we kind of fall for the person on the inside, their personality, they're very talented in these areas. And the third and last phase is the attachment phase, which is when the honeymoon phase goes out the window. I've already gotten used to their physical appearance. I've already gotten used to their body, their beauty, their physical outward appearance. I'm kind of already bored with he's already sang me every love song that he knows.
I know all the jokes.
I know all the jokes.
Yeah.
Now comes the attachment phase. The last phase of love is the attachment, which is kind of the boring phase.
When it comes to the original thing that was brought up about love fixing everything, I do agree with that, but in a more metaphysical way than in a more spiritual way. Because at the end, it's Christ's love, from a Judeo-Christian perspective, that brings the salvation and the destruction of sin and eternal life and all of that. But so in that context, I believe is very much true. That's the ultimate love, the ultimate sacrifice, the ultimate everything. But
I think the 5 love languages. Falls perfectly in line with the theological explanation of love, at least from the Christian Judeo religion. Because what did Jesus the Christ do for us? Lay down his life, suffered, sacrificed. What is the 5 love languages all about? The motto, Dr. Gary Chapman, he says couples get in trouble when they impose their love language onto the other. So what's the remedy? I have to die to myself, Christ, and love my partner with their love language, not my love language.
Exactly. See, I'm a multilingual love language guy, so physical touch is probably my strongest one. quality time and gifts are the big ones. And I married a monolingual acts of service, which I don't do very well. So, so if I really want to sweep her off her feet,
you don't sweep and mop.
Well, no, I know how to swab, but like in the Navy they call it swabbing. But what I do, if I really want to sweep her off her feet, I wash the dishes.
Sweep and mop.
And if I do it, nah, man. So if I really want to get to her heart, I do the dishes. She hates doing dishes, so I do the dishes, and she's like, "Oh my God, you did the dishes!" And I'm like, yes, I did."
But again, that's what we're talking about. I mean, and I think reflecting on all my couples in my private practice, it's they're genuinely confused.
Yeah.
Keyword, genuinely confused.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I have this couple and they'll come and say, well, I don't think my husband loves me. The husband is genuinely confused and shocked. And he says, what do you mean? What do you mean? I remember when I was in New York City, I had this guy from Staten Island, and he said, what do you mean? I buy you all these expensive purses and cars and switch out your car every 2 years.
And that's what I was thinking too, is how people, when they come in, right, and they're like hearing this because he doesn't do this or that, they're like so confused. They're like, what do you, and then they go into a defense mode and they start laying out everything that they're doing in front of them, and it just becomes like a back and forth.
But then the person that's being, if you will, attacked, if you will, says, but I do love you just in my own way. And
but that doesn't make any sense.
And that's the problem. That my love language is gift giving, yours is acts of service. And if it's your birthday, if it's our anniversary, I better
and that's what
you
people don't like to hear.
I tell clients this. I tell them there's five screens that you have to look at, that you have to keep tabs on, but you just are fixated in this one screen. And if you don't see any activity there, that means he doesn't love you. But the other ones are going off like a Christmas tree, and you're not even looking at them. And that's how, like, oh, I never thought about it that way. That's exactly what's going on. And I think
a lot of couples don't like to hear that. We don't like to hear what's actually going on or what we're seeing. Sometimes I hear it from couples. It's like, well, why do I need to come talk to you? You're a stranger. You don't know us. Why do we have to tell you all of our business? And I was like, well, something's not working, and that's how you're here.
I think another thing that couples don't like to hear, at least for me, is when I tell couples, you never win an argument with your spouse. Like, I have couples coming all the time, and I'm sure you've had it too. They expect us to be referees. Hey, doc, who's right, me or her? And I always say, you never win an argument with your spouse.
That's why I always say they're discussions instead. Like, if we reframe it from being an argument to it just being a discussion, nobody wins in discussions. In an argument, always someone wins. In a fight, they call it.
It's either you have two options. It's either your spouse, you against your spouse, or your spouse and you against the problem.
I think that what crushes my couples is that we communicate. No, you don't. You think you know how to communicate, but you don't know how to communicate. Because first of all, you don't know how to listen. You're listening for inconsistencies and things that you can correct, so you can edit their version of the story, and you're not really listening to say, this is what I need to do.
It's like they're listening to plan their next verbal comeback.
Exactly. They're not listening to understand.
Understand.
They're hearing so that I can strategize how I'm going to come at you, instead of like, I need to change this.
And I think that's where they confuse it when we talk to them about our perspective of love, of how like love should be, because what's been interesting is when they come at me, right, and I'm like the younger one, and they're like, well, what do you know, right?
I hated my younger years.
And they're like, well, I see that you're married too, so you must know. So that idea of like, well, what if I wasn't married? Like, does that not make me a person of knowledge to talk to you about your marriage? Or, so I've always thought that concept is like.
I had a lady tell me that once. And like
recently, or
no, it's a long time ago. Yeah, when I was young.
when we were
I
young.
was young.
I got that all the time.
I told her, okay, I get what you're saying. Like I don't have the experience, so I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, you have a child. Yes. Okay, tell me about your OBGYN. Oh, he was great. He was so he. So here you have somebody who has different, external plumbing than you do, and you're trusting everything to him.
Yeah.
How did that work? And how come you can trust him?
The same argument with schizophrenics, working with schizophrenics. How can I treat a schizophrenic if I'm not schizophrenic?
Yeah.
Who says I'm not?
I always think that's funny whenever they come at me in that way, because they look at me and they're like, oh no, like she doesn't know anything of what we're talking about. But yet they come out and they're like, damn, I wasn't planning on talking to you at all. And they were the only ones talking throughout the whole session. And their wife is just looking at them like, get a load of this guy, the one who wasn't going to talk. So I think that's where we get wrong in love, is just the roles that we see normally. Like everybody falls naturally into the mom role, into the provider role, and then after that nobody meets in the middle. I always tell my couples, it's like it's you guys versus the kids. Because I've seen it where the mom,
that's a big thing that comes up.
Because I see it sometimes where the mom will side with the kids and the husband is the outlier. So now it's all the kids and the mom versus the dad. And they make
intergenerational alliance.
Yeah.
So as a family therapist, one of the psychotherapies one of my heroes is Salvador Minuchin. He came up with the concept of structural family therapy, and he says he's very firm that the priority is the marriage, not the kids. My spouse is a priority, because what's going to happen at age 18 when the kids they leave, they fly the coop and they leave. And so, and if you think about it, every school of thought, whether it's theology, anthropology, they all say we have to prioritize the marriage. The kids don't come before the spouse.
So then what happens when we see these couples in their own marriages and that's not the priority? Because even when you get married, they say that. Right? They say, at least in the Catholic Church, right? They say to prioritize like your husband, like put him first, all of these things. And then we see the opposite when years down the line. And
how's that working for you?
No, let me give you a classic Minuchin. Like the classic Minuchin is like, when did you divorce your child and divorce your husband and marry your child?
That's, I love Salvador Minuchin. I was called Minuchin Jr. when my first job out of grad school, because you challenge their belief systems. It's like,
and people don't like that, especially here. I think in our culture, when we have to be confrontational with our clients. Nobody wants to hear the truth. Nobody wants to hear, see the elephant that's in the room, and we're the ones that have to bring it in. It's hard.
Well, I think that a good chunk of that is talking about things couples don't like to hear. That goes like, it's anathema. It's heresy in Mexican culture. It's like, your husband is before your children is more important. A lot of women, especially, in our culture, is going to be like, no, los niños, the kids, they're going to be, that Marianismo is going to be that mother, that image of the suffering mother that needs to focus on the children. And they're the most important thing. And it's just defies logic. And even though it's a cultural premise, one of the things that I tell my students and my patients, at what point does that premise that is held culturally, does it become toxic? At what point do you draw that line?
Well, I think we need to acknowledge that premise is accurate. It's healthy. The spouse does is a priority before the kids, if and only if the love is authentic. Which goes back to what we were talking a few moments ago. We need to prepare these couples. But to Gilbert's point, gosh, I think when domestic violence hits in, when drug abuse hits in, kicks in,
Yeah.
and the one spouse, I was about to say the husband, but I've also seen women,
Yeah.
they develop an addiction, and the whole paycheck goes to the addiction, and they shut off the water, the utilities, no light, and because I spent all my paycheck on the drugs.
Yeah. I think for me,
And infidelity as well.
oh yeah.
absolutely.
I
That's a big one.
think in that topic of infidelity, like growing up with that idea that it's okay, you know, because you have to stay together for the kids. You know, I always heard growing up, like as soon as you're of age, you know, I'm gonna leave your dad. And I remember telling my mom this. I'd be like, you can leave him right now. Like we'll be fine.
Yeah.
You know, so that idea that love is some sort of sacrifice, and it's always something that has to come from like some sort of suffering.
Yeah.
I think the suffering, I don't know. I think the suffering is, oh, well, he has ADHD and he never pays attention to me. I think that's maybe a tolerable
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
But the thing is that I think you bring a very good point, Lydia, that we're going to stay because of the kids, you know? So like a lot of my questions is like, so tell me about why is it so important for the kids to have a dad? You know, what are the qualifications for dad, according to you? So that opens the can of worms, right? That Pandora's box of abandonment, of maybe coming from a home that dad was not present. And for this particular parent, a present dad is more important than anything. But now it's the pendulum swings to the extreme that I'm going to keep anybody there doing whatever because I don't want my kids to be without a dad, even though that's actually causing more harm to the individual and to the kids and things like that.
So what I'm hearing you say is it depends on the extremeness of the maladaptive behaviors.
Absolutely.
No, and I would agree with that because if something happens between the couple, and it could be remedied, let's do it, because there's this beautiful book. In my opinion, it's probably the best longitudinal study. It's called the unanticipated or the unexpected legacy of divorce. It's a great book, and it sums up this it's a 25-year study that was done in California. Essentially, they took a whole bunch of kids and they divided up into half. These group of kids, they came from intact homes. Mom and dad were together. These group of kids, mom and dad were divorced. And at the end, they just compared the lifestyles, and they followed these kids for 25 years. At the end, what did they find? That the kids that came from divorced homes, it doesn't take a rocket scientist, but the kids that came from divorced homes, they suffered. And not only that,
in all aspects,
it was always the mom that suffered more than the father, because usually the kids stay with the father. So if one partner messes up and it could be remedied, that's a lot better than the divorcing.
So then what would you say is like the solution or that remedy for long-term love?
I would say cultivating the relationship. Like I tell my wife, I want to see my girlfriend, you know, and I'm not talking about somebody else. I tell her, I want to see my girlfriend. I want to hang out with my girlfriend.
That's cool. I know what you're saying.
Exactly. You know, I want to date you. I want to go out on dates. And every Thursday night, hell or high water, we go out on a date without the kids. It's just her and I, you know, and if we can have more. Now we're older, so we can have more time together. And now she's no longer enslaved to the 9 to 5, you know, so we're able to hang out. So we go have breakfast, we go hang out, we go like, hey, let's go watch a movie. Hey, let's go to this place. Let's go. So we're spending a lot of time together.
I think there is a theorist that said it, and a lot of time, how much time should we spend a week? Well, as far as intimacy goes, 90 minutes a week, excuse me. Not seconds. There's so many. So to answer your question, Lydia, there's so many different techniques. So I had this one young guy early 20s. He said, hey, this is what's going on. We're just always fighting. And he came, dropped down $150 for the hour. And he said, I'm only going to come this one time, so I need you to fix my marriage. Talk about pressure. So I heard his narrative, I heard his story, I heard his problems. And at the end, I said, all right, just do these 4 things, and they're all based on neuroscience, and we'll see how it goes. Eye contact. Whenever you talk to your wife, eye contact. And there's neurobiology behind that. The wife, as soon as there's eye contact, oxytocin gets released within her. The feel-good hormone, ABT, always be touching. Just touch her. You're in the car, put your hand on her thigh. At home, watching movies, just put your hand, run your hand through her hair. Novelty, fun, always new things, fun, do fun things, and read to each other. Those 4 things. I ran into him this morning at the barbershop, and he said, hey, those 4 things you told me a month and a half ago, they worked. So, I mean, there's all these different little techniques.
Yeah.
The 5 love languages, these 4 things.
One of the things that I like to hit him with, that they get surprised when I do that, because they come and they want to tell me their sob story about how they've been wrong so many times.
Yeah.
And the unfairness of the whole thing, which I get it. We all get it. But if I'm going to be a therapist, I'm going to tell you what everybody else is telling you, right? All of your friends. You don't need to come and pay $200 an hour, in my case, for to hear what your friends are telling you. So I tell them, okay, this is what I want you to do. And I got this from Jordan Peterson, which I thought was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. He said this: how can you become the ideal spouse for your partner? Not what does the other person needs to do or stop doing. What can you do to become the ideal spouse for your partner?
The reflection from within.
So take ownership of this. And what do I need to do to be the ideal husband? Knowing my wife and knowing her needs and knowing her well, because we've been together for going to 26 years. What do I need to do to be the perfect husband for her?
Yeah.
And then her to take responsibility. What do I need to do to be the perfect wife for him?
Yeah.
Well, because also I feel that whenever we're looking at these problems, right, or when these issues in hand, we have a hard time reflecting to ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? We're always seeking outside. Okay, well, what are people doing that I'm feeling this way, rather than looking within and saying, okay, well, I need to do X, Y, and Z and hope for the best. Hopefully other people around me will change the dynamic, because sometimes it just gets so, we make it more complicated than what it has to be.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm of the camp that I don't think love has to be hard. I don't think love is hard.
Yeah.
I really don't. As long as people prepare for it before they get married. And if you're already married and your marriage is not where you want it to be, then come to treatment. There's so many ideas that we have up our sleeves that can be helpful.
But I like that idea of having those conversations before even marriage. I think even in relationships, what if marriage is not your end goal and you just stay in a relationship, but having those conversations as well that we would have with a person who's married, that life.
You mean people that cohabitate and just never?
Those exist.
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. Ask me why.
Why?
Because there's always a backdoor exit.
True.
Shocker.
Right? It's a way for people to stay safe.
You can't test drive commitment without commitment.
It's like it's like the test car. I mean, it fundamentally goes against what love is. Love
but even if you look at the studies, right, there's a lot of couples that cohabitate now without ever being married or.
But if you look at the literature carefully,
the literature says the opposite.
If you cohabitate, your chances of divorce within the first 5 years are over 75%.
Yeah,
because the drastic dynamic change that happens the minute they sign the paper.
Well, that and they signed the paper.
Yeah,
but and they enter into the marriage, but what they fail to leave behind is the attitude, the
what I'm
test
saying,
car
yes.
attitude.
Well,
Yes.
that's what I was about to
Dynamics
ask. Like,
change.
what is so big or prominent about signing this piece of paper? You know, because it only takes what, like $25, $60, $100 to go get a marriage license. Like, what's the difference?
Expectations. That's the killer. Because the minute you sign in, the minute you now have expectations of a husband, expectations of a wife, and that changes the game completely. When before, like you said, the back door was open.
But often
You know?
we hear it's like, oh, well, I'm not gonna do the wifey duties without the title, you know, and then the
Exactly.
title comes in, and then we're not fulfilling the roles.
But the problem is, if they've been cohabitating,
Yeah.
Again, basic psychology 101.
Yeah.
Whatever my belief systems are, that's how I'm going to behave. So if I go to test drive a car, you know, I'll go test drive it and I say, okay, well, if I like it, I'll take it. If I don't, and that's what cohabitation is. It's nothing but test driving a car. And if I like her, if he doesn't snore, if he doesn't have any bad habits, then I'll go ahead and marry this person. And they marry. The problem is people they marry, but they don't leave that mindset behind.
Look, the best
They don't
example I
close-
can give you.
They don't close the back door.
One of the things that I can tell you is as a hunter, you know, I was watching videos of these hog traps. Now, you know, it's just a comparison, right? This wild pig trap. Wild pigs is a big problem here in Texas and across the U.S. They're like running the land. No. Wild.
Oh, the big ones.
Pigs. You know, they're reproducing a lot and they're destroying crops and roads and things, and they're a big plague here in the U.S. So they're trying to mass trap these things. So they have these traps. So what they do, they're great. The bacon from them is not so good because they don't develop the muscle for that. But anyway, so they put tons of corn, and they have this massive like net that's kind of hanging over them, and they all come together and they're all eating and they're all just enjoying the free food until that thing just falls. And when that thing falls, they go berserk. They start trying to ram this thing and jump over it, and they all try to get up because the parameters that weren't there before all of a sudden, like, boom, there's a wall there, you can't get out, and they start freaking out.
Are you saying we're like pigs?
We are like that. Yeah, so that's what happens, you know. All of a sudden, you're now trapped. No longer you don't have that back door. You don't have that way out. People freak out when that happens. And when now I want you to do this, well, now I don't want it. And that's when...
I see.
Yeah.
Because I know that if you look at the studies now, it's very common, you know, for cohabitation to
Absolutely.
to be the norm. It's a norm.
Doesn't happen. Doesn't mean it's good.
Slavery was illegal.
Yeah, that's what I'm
We
saying.
can't compare it to slavery.
Yeah.
Well, no, but the comparison is just because something is common, something is accepted,
Doesn't mean it's
it
right.
doesn't mean it's healthy.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I feel like love can be defined in many different ways, and you know, sometimes what if it just works for people? You know, because I've had couples where it just works for some reason, even though research shows us otherwise.
Yeah.
So and in statistics, in the world of statistics, we would call those people outliers. You know, it's that exception to the rule. And I think, and you said it greatly. Yeah, however, the majority, the people that cohabitate, they just wind up getting divorced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've been talking about love. How do you guys separate your work from your actual romantic attachments? For example, I had a CPS worker as a patient, and we could imagine what CPS workers face on a daily basis. They see all these traumatized kids. So then they go home and they're these helicopter parents, which is not healthy. So we see patients, we see couples in our private practices. How do we not allow the things we see interfere with our romantic attachment?
Well, for me, it goes down to what we were talking about in the beginning is communication, right? Making sure that, you know, we're utilizing the interventions that we tell our clients to communicate with, like the I statements. I feel like that one makes a world of a difference whenever we communicate clearly what we're saying, and then if we're interpreting things differently, that we make it known. Because for me, like the way that my brain works, it's always like at 100 miles per hour. So sometimes I hear things that are not there, or I make up different scenarios, or maybe I just like interpret things something completely out of place, but I say it. Whether it sounds ridiculous or it's just like out of pocket, like I'll talk about it anyways, because if it stays in my head, it's just going to keep ruminating, and I'm going to make it into this big, beautiful, like drama thing that wasn't even there because I didn't talk about it. For me, communication is always the one way that I get out of it.
For me, Ali, how could I say this? Well, there's two things. The first one that I can think of right off the bat as you asked this is I learn from my patients.
I know.
I learn from my patients. A lot of the stuff that they've done and see the aftermath of cheating, of this, that, and the other, as tempting as cheating can be sometimes. I see the cost of that and see the desolation of that. That I'm like, heck no, I am not taking that chance. I'm not going. So I've learned so much from my patients and what to not to do. So that's helped me a lot. I think I've learned far more from my patients than I've learned from any professor or any textbook, just talking to them and learning from them and learning the true suffering of that. That has helped. Second, I keep in mind, and I say this to my patients a lot, is that my work and what I do professionally is to provide for my family so that my family's happy and is fulfilled. In other words, I work to live. I don't live to work. Yeah. And what happens when many people get so caught up in work that they forget about the family that they're supposed to be providing for the well-being of the family. So then when the family gets neglected because you're so caught up in the work, then the family suffers. And why are you working? So that's one of the things that I know for me it's a big thing, to always keep things in perspective. Not wait till later to have the vacation. Not wait till later to do this. There's a picture floating around the internet of an elderly couple that are in Venice in a gondola. They're in a gondola, right?
And
they're elderly. And what are they? They're asleep. And the guy that's in the gondola, he's just kind of taking a picture with them, like
laughing.
For these people,
Yeah.
Like, why do that? I mean, like, go now, enjoy now. So that's my philosophy on that.
I think it also goes back to how you mentioned, like, still dating each other.
Exactly.
I feel like that's one of
Which
the
is
biggest
what our
things.
couples don't do.
Yes, because we get so wrapped up into the routine of life.
Yes.
And I always say that when they become parents, like, they don't realize how much that's going to change their dynamic.
Yeah.
When I ask them, like, what are their strengths, or what is something really that you really like about them? And they only talk about themselves, about being a parent, and they forget about themselves before becoming that.
Yes.
So I feel like dating in a relationship is so important, even if it's just something small. They're like, well, it's because we don't have a babysitter. When the kids go to sleep, pop a movie, buy the delivery service, and just like make it your own. It doesn't always have to be how something grandiose and how we see it in social media. For me, social media is always something that I always bring in because that's what people consume on the daily.
And where do we get our ideas of love? I mean, it's on TV. Cinderella.
Yeah.
What's the closing line of Cinderella? And they
live happily, never after.
but they don't show what happened to Prince Charming and Cinderella 5-10 years after that.
And they didn't date for 6 months, a year or two. They just met for like 30 minutes, and now they want to get married. Like,
Horrible example of how to.
I've known women and men, but women, ladies a lot, they get so caught up in the whole wedding thing. They prepare for the wedding. They don't prepare for the marriage. They take longer in picking the china than they do for picking the husband. So it's I'm like,
China's still a thing?
China, the dishes,
the
you know what I'm saying, right? But they take longer in picking that up, or the dress. I said yes to the dress. I'm like, who you're marrying? Seriously? Okay. But it's so crazy how it's all backwards.
Yeah. So my story is a little bit interesting. I've been here in Texas for about 10 years. Before here, I was just globetrotting, really focused on my...
You saw the light.
focused on my career. I was really trying to garner enough experience to come back home. Mm-hmm. Living in places like New York City and Spain, the love there is very transient. So really, I'm very good with the first couple of phases of love, but the attachment phase, I'm not familiar with that. So I'm good with whining and dining and the honeymoon phase. But when you live in places and you're a little gypsy in travel, it's you don't know how. You don't get to the point where you have to sacrifice.
Yeah.
So going back to what Gilbert says, we learn from our patients. Yeah. I'm learning from my patients on how to behave in a marriage, how to behave with a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, in the dating, courting process, because it's just a totally different thing for me.
Yeah.
I was just used to, all right, well, when you're a little vagabond, you don't go through the entire phases of love.
Yeah. Well, I mean, looking at like as therapists with people too, and we struggle. And I'm married to a therapist, so we do the Jedi mind trick on each other. But we fight. We disagree. I get on her nerves. She gets on my nerves. But I'd say like it's either we've just gotten old and we're just kind of mellowed out, or we've actually learned how to balance it out, how to work it out. One of the things that when I first married, I was fresh, like recently out of the military and things like that. So my mentality was very different. My mentality was to intimidate and to, and I'm pretty good at intimidating and just get her to shut up because I didn't want to be in an argument or fighting. I wanted to come home to peace. And she was mad about something.
Which is a very common male pattern.
So I wanted to like,
but again, not to be dominant over our partner, but to maintain the peace.
Yeah, to maintain the peace. Kind of like the male gorilla that shows the big fangs so that nobody messes with him, right?
Yeah.
So it was that type of stuff. But then, my wife, I happen to pick somebody that likes to dig in her heels, and like I am not moving from here. So I'm like, well, we can't. I ran into a conundrum where like now I have to either put up or shut up, and of course I'm not going to progress into physical violence. But for men, it's always an option, right? Automatic. But a good man's going to keep that under control. So I'm not going to move from there. So now I'm in a conundrum. What do I do now? Right? So we would just start doing this. And then on the time I realized we were just going at each other, right? She was just giving me that double machine gun, just coming at me verbally. And I'm like, I would just kind of wait for her to like change out the barrel so I don't come up, boom, sniper shot. And then she would continue at me. Yeah. Any veterans out there know what I'm talking about. She had a Dushka, and she was just shooting at me. So I was just waiting.
That sounds
and
exhausting.
Just receiving that. And I was just trying to one up her, right? And be a smartass about things. But one time I just kind of had a light bulb moment in the middle of this. And I just said, you know what? This is just stupid. I told her, I'm like, listen, baby. And I meant that. Gentlemen, don't do this if you don't mean it, because she will smell through it. I said this like, you know what? I just want you to know something. I love you beyond anything I can say or express. What we're fighting about right now is just stupid. In 10 years from now, we're not going to remember what we were fighting. And I don't remember what we're fighting about. But I just want you to know that I love you, and this is probably just a misunderstanding, and you're more important than me in this argument. And she kept on going for a little bit, kind of like in Predator when they're shooting the machine gun and then it runs out of ammo, and just and then she stopped, and then she cried. She said, "I'm sorry." And we hugged, and since that day, for us, that was a turning point.
Yeah.
Since that day, we rarely ever fight.
That is actually a turning point that's very common in my private practice.
Yeah.
I think couples, they make like this turnaround when they realize, going back to the analogy that I used earlier, you never win an argument with your spouse.
No, you don't. You lose. Both lose.
lose.
Everybody's losing.
It's and I tell this to my couples. It's like, okay, you both are on a dinghy, small little boat, and a husband is on one end, wife is on the other end, and husband is bitching out the wife because the boat is sinking because because there's a hole in it, but the hole is on the wife's side, and the husband is bitching out the wife. Because the hole is on your side. And in reality, it's idiotic.
Yeah. And I always think about that whenever, like when you were talking about being married to a therapist, I remembered a client kind of tried to turn the dynamic back to me and say like, oh yeah, well, yes. I'm like, whoa, like I'm just here, and I just made the joke to kind of like bring back the attention to them. I was like, my husband's married to a therapist. So, like you can imagine the conversations we have, and that like stopped him. But because we have like a different like idea of things, like the way we see the communication patterns between like our partners or like anybody that we're with, we observe things very differently. So I always thought it was funny how when they try to turn it back to us, like to try to humanize it, it's like, well, pick a side. And we don't want to, but I like we were talking about earlier about how, love should be easy. And I don't think love is easy because love is a choice. It's a choice that we make like every day we make a choice, to love our partners, to be with our partners, to respect our partners more than anything. Because I always point that out too. It's like, oh boy, you don't respect your partner anymore. And that is a shocker to hear. Like, what do you mean I don't respect them? Of course I do. And the actions say otherwise. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a huge challenge to tell a patient, this is what I see. Well, no, I love my spouse. Your behavior tells me otherwise. Yeah.
Well, what about when we say love means staying no matter what?
Well, I think we touched base on that. Yeah. It's like, where's the limit? Domestic violence, substance abuse, infidelity. The top 3 reasons for divorce in the United States are those 3 things.
Absolutely.
Well, what about when we hear you should feel in love all the time?
Oh no! I mean, there's this neuro researcher, Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor. She says that she was able to trace through brain scans that the human person experiences emotions for 90 seconds. Beyond that, that's because we keep rethinking the incident or the scenario that made us feel those. But love isn't an emotion. It's not.
And it's untenable. I mean, it's completely untenable because what we feel love, it's a combination of dopamine, oxytocin, phenylethylamine, prolactin, and serotonin, so we see those things. And those are chemicals. And what happens, our brains, when we're exposed to a particular chemical for a prolonged period of time, we build tolerance. Because of the homeostatic process that we have. So we build tolerance to that. So that's why when you're in that honeymoon stage, then everything's awesome. Everything's great, right? Like in the Lego movie. But then after you get past that section, then you actually start noticing that that person's not all that in a bag of chips. You start noticing their flaws. You start noticing that, they don't brush their teeth. You start noticing that they do this, that they do that they make a mess over there, that they do that. And so they cut corners here. And now you start getting irked by them. And so it just continues to progress and change. So feeling love, you should be in love. That's untenable. That's just idiotic. It's not going to happen.
So when we hear the quick response of love fixes everything.
False.
Gilbert?
Love in a metaphysical sense, yes. Like love from God, yes, it fixes everything because it fixes the human condition. Love in humans, yes, it'll help some things, but other people, especially if you're dealing with somebody with a personality disorder, particularly of cluster B, like for example, you're what do you call it? Your narcissistics or your antisocials or even your histrionics or borderlines. Your love is just going to fuel their need to abuse you and take advantage of you. So, no.
And I agree with that concept of love does fix everything, but there has to be...
As a motivator.
Yeah. the motivator. There has to be action behind it. We can't just say, oh, well, I love you, but we have nothing to back it up.
I think love as a motivator. If the love is authentic, if it's mature, if people have gone to treatment or with a pastor, with a priest, and really done their due diligence of understanding what love is, then yes, love does fix everything because it is our belief system. It's our motivator.
Well, I'm going to be irreverent, but so does, as far as fixing everything, so does like duct tape and WD-40. So just
yeah.
Well, guys, I think this was a good one. I'm spent.
You're spent.
Yes.
With talking about love. So much love in the air.
So much love in the air.
Love is in the air.
It's February. I think last couple of closing reflection. What does a healthy form of love look like for us?
I feel like for me, it's for when I feel heard. I live a very, I would say right now it's not as hectic as it used to be, since I'm in the final stages of my dissertation. But just being heard, if I'm feeling tired, if I'm full into the coding process of my paper, getting offered like a snack, like that for me is love, just being noticed, like when I need something without having to say it.
I'm going to go on nerd mode. The 4 S's for me. Do I feel seen in my relationship? If I'm down, if I'm bummed out, does my partner soothe me? Does my partner make me feel safe enough to where I could say anything without being judged? Does and practically speaking, secure? Do I have a sense of security? Am I protected by my spouse? So for me, what a healthy love looks like is if the 4 S's are present. Safe, secure, soothed, and seen.
I'm going to go with Emerson Eggerich's description of that. For men, and that's in my case, I identify with that. Love, it means respect. Love means admiration. So if I feel respected and admired and looked up to by my spouse, that's love. That's love. I have that, right? But my wife can be sometimes like Rue's mom, like, so I have to really put out a lot, like to really impress her. But I don't mind. I like doing that. But when it comes to female, like the women, nothing brings them more peace than the stability of the relationship. If she feels that the relationship is stable and she is loved above everything, and she's everything to that man, her world is solid, So absolutely. So that's what I'm going to go with.
So to wrap things up, we just want to also invite the audience to text us some questions, what you all want for us to respond to, what you all want us to explore.
I think it would also be interesting to hear what love looks to you right now, because we're on different phases of our life. Maybe love doesn't necessarily mean like marriage. It could also mean like in our friendships or whatever.
Dating.
Yeah. So what does love look to you right now?
And also what has love taught you about yourself that you didn't expect? Love is a relational process. Going back to what Gilbert was saying and what I completely agree, I learn about love, about myself through my patients, being in relationship with friends, with lovers. So what has love taught you about yourself?
Well, thanks for listening in, everybody. We hope that you join us next time for our next episode, and send us your questions. Let us know what you're thinking. Have a great evening.